Undercover owner gets chicken wrap, sees inside wrapper, and demands an emergency inspection. This isn't our sauce. Ethan Carter stared at the open chicken wrap before him, his voice low, sharp. His eyes didn't blink. Max, the German shepherd lying at his feet, lifted his head. The lunchtime crowd hummed around them, oblivious. Anna, the cashier, shifted nervously. "Sorry, sir." He pointed with the edge of the wrapper. "This chicken is dry. The lettuce is wilted, and this sauce has never passed through my supply chain. You sure you work for Carter's Grill?" Anna's face went pale. "I just serve what the kitchen gives me." Ethan exhaled through his nose. "You're not the one I'm worried about. If you've ever trusted the food in your hand, you want to stay to the end of this story. Because when the founder of a global restaurant brand goes undercover and his dog sniffs out fraud, you'll see exactly how far one man will go to protect the name he built from nothing. Like, subscribe, and let's uncover what's hiding behind the kitchen door." Ethan Carter, 42, founder and face of Carter's Grill, had built his restaurant empire from the ground up. He started with nothing but a food cart in Dallas and a spicy, smoky grilled chicken wrap recipe his late grandmother taught him. He had maxed out 2 credit cards to buy the cart, worked 16-hour days, and spent nights studying restaurant operations from borrowed books. That was 15 years ago. Now, Carter's Grill was a global chain with 52 locations across North America and Europe. Their reputation had always been pristine. Clean kitchens, quality ingredients, ethical sourcing. Ethan had always prided himself on staying involved, visiting branches, surprising staff, checking quality personally. But lately, something had changed. The Mitte District location in Berlin had been the source of increasing customer complaints. Ethan's customer service team flagged reviews describing food that tasted off. Chicken was rubbery. The sauce had a strange aftertaste. Packaging looked fake. Ethan read every single one of them. He leaned back in his leather office chair at HQ in Austin and stared at his tablet. He tapped a review that simply read, "Carter's isn't Carter's anymore." That one hurt. He called Lena. Lena Weiss, 35, was his director of global operations. Sharp as a tack, fiercely loyal. Born in Hamburg, she was in charge of all European franchises. "Lena, I'm going to Berlin. I can send someone from audit." "No, they'll see an auditor coming a mile away. I'm going undercover." She was quiet for a beat. "What's the plan?" "Simple. Hat, sunglasses, old coat. I'll play tourist. Lunch rush. Bring Max." Lena smiled through the line. "You're bringing the dog?" "He's not just a dog," Ethan said. "He's my nose." Max had been with Ethan for 7 years. A German shepherd with sharp instincts. Max was more than a pet. He was a trained canine rescue with experience from a Carter's Grill charity initiative that paired retired working dogs with veterans and first responders. Ethan had kept Max from that very first round of pairings. The dog never left his side. So that's how Ethan and Max ended up on a Lufthansa flight to Berlin. He wore cargo pants, a beat-up jacket, and a baseball cap. No one gave him a second look. They arrived at Carter's Grill, Mitte branch, just before 12:30 p.m. The lunch rush. The restaurant sat on the corner of a busy intersection in a sleek modern building. The signage looked right. The staff uniforms looked standard. The lighting was warm. Music piped softly overhead. But something felt wrong. Max hesitated at the threshold. Not long. Just a half-second pause, then a low huff. Ethan rubbed his ears. "Yeah, buddy. I feel it too." He stepped inside, took his place in line. The cashier, Anna, looked about 19. Nervous. Her apron was slightly stained. Not unusual during lunch. But her eyes kept flicking toward the kitchen. "Next." Ethan stepped up. "1 classic grilled chicken wrap, please. No drink. To stay." Anna rang it up, hands fumbling on the touchscreen. Sorry, she said. It's my second week. Take your time. Ethan watched her press buttons, then whisper to another staff member near the drink machine. Is the wrap sauce okay today? Ethan's ears perked up. He paid cash, took his number, and waited near the end of the counter. Max sat quietly, but his ears tracked every motion. His nose twitched. He stared toward the kitchen door. The food came 6 minutes later. Ethan took the tray to a booth in the far corner, where no one could stand behind him. Max lay beneath the table. Ethan unwrapped the sandwich slowly, like he was defusing a bomb. And then he saw it. The paper was wrong. The Carter's Grill logo was printed in the right place, but the font was off. A little thinner. A different red. Ethan ran his thumb across it. Ink smudged. No, he muttered. That's not right. He peeled the paper open. The chicken looked dry, overcooked. The lettuce was translucent. The sauce, a key signature item, was watery, and when he tasted it, his face went cold. This isn't ours. Max sniffed, let out a quiet growl. Ethan took a picture of the wrap, another of the packaging. Then he slid the wrapper back together and stood up. Restroom? He asked a nearby staffer. Down the hall to the left. He took his tray and walked calmly. But instead of entering the restroom, he passed it, turned the corner, and stopped at the edge of the kitchen access hallway. Max padded silently beside him. As he passed a gray metal door labeled Storage 2B, Max suddenly stopped. He sniffed at the door, growled again, his hackles raised. Ethan touched the door handle. Locked. He knelt beside Max. What do you smell, boy? Max gave a low bark and pawed at the base of the door. Ethan stood. Okay, we dig deeper. He snapped a photo of the door, then returned to his booth. He needed help. He called Lena. Send me supply logs for the past 60 days. I need to know where this branch is sourcing. On it. Anything else? Yeah. Give me a contact in the Berlin police. Preferably someone who doesn't mind getting their hands dirty. You don't understand, Lena. The sauce tasted like vinegar and starch. It wasn't even close. And Max, he's never wrong. He sat and growled at the back storeroom. Something is off, and it's deeper than just bad training. Ethan's voice was low but intense as he spoke into his burner phone, standing under the shadow of a tree across the street from the Carter's Grill Berlin Mint branch. Max sat beside him, leash looped around Ethan's wrist, eyes fixed on the entrance as if waiting for someone to slip. You really think it's counterfeit ingredients? Lena asked. I think it's worse, and I need your help to prove it. The call ended. Ethan exhaled slowly, stared at his reflection in the darkened glass of a nearby shop window. He looked like a tourist. He didn't feel like one. Max nudged his thigh with his nose. Yeah, I know. It's time to go back in. They returned the next morning, just as the sun cleared the rooftops. Ethan wore the same disguise. Max, calm but alert, walked slightly ahead. This time, Ethan didn't go in through the front. He went around to the alley where deliveries arrived. He waited. At 7:43 a.m., a battered white van pulled up. No branding. Just a driver in a gray hoodie who barely acknowledged the kitchen worker that let him in. A single dolly carried 3 boxes into the building. Ethan watched, noting the label blank with just a QR code and the letters VPB. Victor Poultry Brokers, Ethan whispered, frowning. That wasn't one of their suppliers. In fact, it wasn't any supplier he'd approved for European locations. He took out his phone and snapped photos. At 8:10, Ethan walked in through the front again, greeted by Anna behind the counter. She hesitated. You're back. The wrap was strange yesterday, Ethan said quietly. I've had better from a gas station. Anna looked around. No one close enough to hear. I'm sorry. I know it's not right. They changed suppliers 2 months ago. We just keep getting these boxes. The kitchen manager, Kurt, he signs for them. We're not allowed to talk about it. Why not? Because anyone who does gets their hours cut. Or worse. Ethan leaned closer. Have you seen anything unusual? Packaging? Money? She nodded slowly. There's this back storage room. They keep it locked. Only Kurt and the assistant manager have keys. And once a week, at night, they load unmarked bags into a van. It's not our food. It's like it's something else. Ethan felt the hairs on his arms rise. Anna, do you trust me? She paused, looked him in the eye. Yes. But why? Who are you? I'll tell you when it's safe. For now, just know this. You're not crazy, and you're not alone. That night, Ethan and Max returned. He wore black. Max had his old working vest on, the one with the reflective stripes and discreet camera harness. Ethan had an old uniform from a third-party delivery service. He carried an empty food crate and waited by the side door. At 10:04 p.m., the assistant manager opened the door for someone, another crate delivery, a small electric truck. Ethan walked up behind them. Hey, I got the late pickup. Kurt told me to swing by and grab the Saturday load. You're early, the assistant muttered. Traffic was light. I'll be quick. He slipped inside. Max padded in after him. Inside the kitchen, 2 workers were finishing prep. No one noticed Ethan. He moved toward the back hallway and turned left. The storeroom door. Locked. But someone had left the key box hanging on the hook. Ethan opened it. Retrieved the key, marked 2B. The door opened with a soft click. Muksh frosh. Tail stiff. Then he moved in. Inside the room were rows of boxes. Not restaurant inventory. Plastic bags filled with packaged chicken, but no labels. No certifications. No lot numbers. Ethan opened one. The smell made his stomach turn. Not USDA. Not even German certified. This is factory waste. Max padded to the corner and stopped. He scratched the floor. Hard. Then barked. Ethan opened a hidden hatch. Inside, bundles of cash. Neatly bound. Labeled with coded slips. They're laundering, Ethan whispered. Muksh wine schofli. Ethan rubbed his back. Good boy. He took photo after photo. Packaging. Meat. Cash. Then he called Lena. Get the police. I'm sending you pictures. And Lena? We're going public. Tell me you're kidding. Lena's voice came through the secure line, tight with disbelief. I wish I was, Ethan replied, crouched in the dark behind a parked utility van across from Carter's grill mitt. But it's not just bad chicken and fake packaging. They're moving money through ghost kitchens. This is organized fraud. Max lay beside him, still as a statue, ears forward. Lena, they've got meat with no certifications, no traceability. We're talking health violations on top of financial crime. I've alerted Dietrich, Lena said. He's with the anti-corruption division in Berlin. Ex-military, no tolerance for this kind of thing. You'll meet him tonight. Ethan hung up, feeling the familiar burn in his chest. Not fear, conviction. They were about to start digging up bodies. Not literal ones, he hoped, but reputations would fall. Dietrich met Ethan in the back of a nondescript cafe in Kreuzberg at 9 p.m. The man looked like someone carved out of oak, solid, square-jawed, and utterly unimpressed by anything. This is Max, he asked. Ethan nodded. Best nose in the industry. Dietrich gave the dog a curt nod of respect. Ive arenod a stink. Tomorrow night. We'll let the van load the goods, then we intercept. Quiet. Clean. Ethan leaned forward. I want to be there. I want to look Kurt and Victor in the eyes when it goes down. You will, but from the shadows. The next evening, Ethan waited inside a nondescript surveillance van with 2 detectives and Max. They had eyes on the Carter's grill loading dock. At 10:27 p.m., a black SUV pulled into the alley. Victor. Ethan's stomach turned. Victor had once been a rising star in Carter's Grill's regional team. Ethan had mentored him, backed him for European expansion. Now he was the architect of the worst scandal the company had ever faced. They watched as Victor and Kurt entered the building. 15 minutes later, two men wheeled out crates covered with black cloth. One of the detectives nodded. Time. The team moved. Uniformed police emerged from side streets. One squad entered through the front. Another blocked the alley. The surveillance van rolled forward. Ethan stayed behind as instructed, hand clenched on Max's collar. Inside the restaurant, chaos. Victor raised both hands as officers surrounded him. "You have no idea who I am," he snapped. "Oh, we do," said Dietrich, stepping forward. "You're the man who turned grilled chicken into a front for organized fraud." Kurt tried to bolt, but was tackled before he got 3 steps. Anna, who had been restocking sauces, froze when she saw Ethan step in behind the officers. She gasped. You're... He nodded. "Mr. Carter." She looked at Max, who stood tall beside him in his vest, then back at the kitchen. "I knew something was wrong," she whispered. "I just didn't think anyone would care." "I care," Ethan said. "And I'm sorry you were ever put in that position." The police searched the kitchen and storage rooms. In a false wall behind the dry goods shelves, they uncovered what appeared to be a second operation, a miniature ghost kitchen equipped with off-brand gear. Inside were stacks of pre-packaged meat and wraps, none bearing the Carter's Grill official supplier codes. Max led them to a false floor panel under the fridge. Dietrich pried it open. More cash. A ledger. A USB drive. Back in the van, Ethan reviewed the footage from Max's chest camera. The angles were perfect. The fake packaging. The illegal meat. The moment Victor touched the crate. "We have them," Lena said when Ethan called. "I want a press release out by morning," Ethan said. "Full transparency. Our customers deserve to hear it from us, not the media." The next morning, Ethan stood at a podium in front of the MIT location. The building was cordoned off with red tape. Max sat beside him, ears alert. "To our loyal customers," Ethan began, "I founded Carter's Grill to serve honest food with real ingredients. What we uncovered here is a betrayal of that mission." He paused. "An investigation is ongoing, but we know this much. Unauthorized supply chains, food quality violations, and financial fraud were all occurring under the direction of individuals we once trusted." He glanced down at Max. "And thanks to this dog and a few brave employees, we stopped it." The press conference lasted 12 minutes. Ethan took no questions. He said what needed to be said and left the podium. The moment he stepped off the curb, his phone buzzed with notifications. Texts from board members, calls from lawyers, emails from the PR team. He ignored all of it. Instead, he knelt beside Max and scratched behind his ears. "You did good, buddy." Max licked his hand, then yawned. Behind them, camera crews were still filming. The words Carter's Grill and crime scene in one frame. Headlines were inevitable. Ethan climbed into a black sedan waiting at the curb. Lena was already inside. "You look calm," she said. "I was furious," he replied. She passed him a tablet. Draft of the company's statement for investor relations. "You want to read it?" Ethan scanned it. "No," he said. "Too clean. Rewrite it. Use words that matter. We were deceived. We let our customers down. We're fixing it. That kind of thing." Lena nodded. "What about staffing the branch?" "Start with Anna." She was the first to speak up. "Offer her a raise and the kitchen manager role. She's only 20. She's already braver than most people twice her age." By noon, Carter's Grill HQ in Austin had issued a full report. A detailed timeline of what happened, what they discovered, who was being held accountable, and what would change. But Ethan knew a report wouldn't be enough. He had to return to the floor. 3 days later, the Berlin MIT location reopened under probationary supervision. Ethan wore an apron. Not for photos, not for optics, because it mattered. He cleaned tables, refilled ketchup bottles, carried trays. Max lay in his usual spot near the front entrance, where customers now paused to greet him with a scratch behind the ears. Children tugged at their parents, whispering, "That's the dog from the news." Anna walked into the kitchen on her first day as manager with a clipboard in one hand and a thermometer in the other. "No shipments without inspection," she announced. "No cold line without a temp check. And if anything smells off, toss it." The team listened, because she had earned it. Ethan made unannounced visits to 2 other European locations that same week. He walked into one kitchen at 7:05 a.m. and found a prep cook asleep on a bag of rice. He walked into another and saw a 16-year-old working the fryer alone. The next morning, Lena got a memo from Ethan titled Operation Sunrise. Phase 1, surprise inspections at every international location. Phase 2, anonymous staff reporting app. Phase 3, open kitchen transparency program. He wasn't fixing one store. He was rebuilding a culture. A week later, Ethan hosted a staff town hall via live stream. He stood on a small stage in Berlin, Max seated beside him. "I built Carter's Grill for people who wanted something better. Not just better food, but better work, better leadership. And we failed to protect that. But here's the thing about fire. It clears the deadwood. Now we rebuild." The stream got 22,000 views in its first hour. Hundreds of comments poured in, some angry, many hopeful. But one stood out. "I worked for you 10 years ago, Mr. Carter. You shook my hand after a lunch rush in Houston and told me to never forget who's really feeding the business. Looks like you haven't. Thank you." Ethan read it 3 times. He showed it to Max. "We're getting through to them." Max didn't reply, but his tail thumped once on the floor. The smell hit Ethan the moment he stepped through the doors of Carter's Grill Mitt. But this time, it wasn't spoiled meat or watered-down sauce. It was the smell of grilled chicken cooked to perfection, toasted wraps, fresh citrus from house-made salsa. Real food. The food he built his name on. Max patted him beside him. No vest today. Just the collar with the gold CG tag. A little boy waved at him. Max barked once, friendly. Ethan nodded to the counter staff, then ducked into the back. Anna looked up from the line where she was plating 2 orders with steady hands and calm command. "You're early," she said. "I couldn't stay away." "Good," she said. "We need extra hands. You're on trash duty." He grinned. "Yes, ma'am." In the following weeks, Operation Sunrise spread across continents. Ethan and Lena published weekly updates, sharing what had been fixed, what was being addressed, and what had been learned. More whistleblowers came forward. They uncovered 3 more ghost kitchen schemes, one in Prague, one in Manchester, one in Atlanta, all quietly dismantled, with charges filed in each country. And everywhere they went, Max found the problems first. Carter's Grill began releasing a quarterly trust report, transparent data about sourcing, safety scores, staff retention, and anonymous complaints. Customer trust began to return. So did investor confidence. Sales dipped in Q2, but by Q4, numbers rebounded. The turnaround was hard-won and honest. On a clear fall day, Ethan stood in a small park in Austin, Texas, beneath a string of lights hung between oak trees. The Carter's Grill Annual Summit was being held outdoors this year. Ethan's idea. "So we can all see what we're building," he said. Lena gave the keynote speech. Anna introduced a new training program for junior kitchen staff. Max received a surprise award, a custom collar that read, Director of Quality Assurance. He barked when they read his name. The staff cheered. That night, as the crowd dispersed and tables were folded away, Ethan stayed behind, sitting on a bench under the lights with Max resting at his feet. He stared out over the lawn, thinking about the path they'd taken. The betrayal, the sting, the arrests. The press conferences, the burnouts, the victories. You still with me? He asked. Max thumped his tail. Ethan reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a worn slip of paper. A handwritten customer complaint from months ago. Carter's isn't Carter's anymore. He folded it in half and tucked it into his wallet behind his ID. Then he stood, looked up at the lights, and smiled. It is now. Max did too. Together, they walked into the dark, not away from the fight, but toward whatever needed fixing next.